Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, alhamdulillah, wa salatu wassalamu ala Rasulullah. A new topic from the 40 principles of the religion, 40 fundamentals of the religion, الأربعين فصول الدين by Imam Al-Ghazali رحمه الله ونفعنا بعلوم في الدارين. The seventh principle, the 27th practically here, love of the world, حب الدنيا في حب الدنيا. Know that love of the world is the head of every sin. Meaning it's behind every sin. The world is not merely an expression for wealth and status, which we have dealt with in the previous, which Imam Al-Ghazali explained immediately in the previous principle. Rather, they are two of the world's fortunes and two of its branches, which are manifold. Your world is an expression of your state before your death, or before death. And your afterlife is an expression of your state after death. Everything in which you have fortune is of your world except for knowledge, awareness, freedom, and whatever remains with you after death. Indeed, these are also delightful to people of insight. However, they are not of the world, even though they are in the world. They are not. They are in the world. Still, he talks about the knowledge and freedom. And freedom, it's the word freedom today is used differently. I would argue. To be free from the world is different from the notion of free to do all vices. The freedom to where basically now you legalize drugs, the freedom to quote unquote change your sex, which is impossible. If you have X chromosomes, that will never be changed by changing some appearances or taking some hormones, or XY for the sake of the argument. You are told you are free to do and be whatever you want. That's not really a healthy thing. The freedom, sexual revolution, it was followed by abortion. And we don't talk about abortion for medical reasons. Cosmetic abortion, as sometimes it is described, where gambling is called gaming, where adultery is called extramarital affairs. That's not the freedom that we talk about, no. It's to be free from all obstacles, distractions, on the path to the hereafter, on the path to be closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You will be distracted. You'll be distracted. It's a daily fight inside you. Everything in which you have fortune is of your world, except for knowledge, awareness, freedom. And whatever remains with you after death. Of course, knowledge, awareness, in Arabic we talk about ilm and ma'rifa. Ilm is absolute. Ma'rifa comes after a state of ignorance and not knowing. This is why Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is described with ilm, but for most, the overwhelming majority of Muslim scholars would not describe Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with ma'rifah. These worldly fortunes have a relationship with you, a relationship with whatever the fortune is found in, and a relationship with your actions related to their rectification. So they derive from actual things that are present, your fortune in respect of them, and your effort to rectify them, to correct, to improve, to mend, to. As for the actual things, they are the earth and everything upon it. And this is really, one would raise a question, but let us read the verse. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم إنا جعلنا مع الأرض زينة لها لنبلوهم أيهم أحسن عملا. Verily, we have made what is on the earth an adornment for it, so that we may test who is the best in deed. I said we can raise a question because we talk here about earth. What the human being seeks from the earth is either the earth itself for shelter and agriculture, its plants for medicine and nourishment, its minerals for coins, utensils, and tools, its animals for riding and eating, or its people for sex and employment. I think, uh, again, the way we use the word sex today, as if this is like a, you know, because the use of the word, I mean, today's sex is translated into jins in Arabic, though also jins is could be sex in the either male or female. فللمنكح والاستسخار. فللمنكح. When we say nikah, we talk about marriage. It's not like for sex with a free thing. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has gathered all of that in the verse. The translation is his statement. I see, really, I found something, I did not feel comfortable with the word statement. It's like you make statement. Politicians make statements. People make statements. No, it's Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala decreed. زين للناس حب الشهوات من النساء والبنين. Beautified for people is the love of that which they desire from women and sons. As for your fortune, from the world, the Noble Quran has used the term caprice, al-hawa, to express it. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, أنما الحياة الدنيا لعب ولهو وزينة وتفاخر بينكم وتكاثر في الأموال والأولاد. The life of this world is only a game, an entertainment, an adornment, boasting amongst yourselves and competing to gain wealth and have children. So we it would have been much better had they mentioned at least the very beginning, it's one word which would have made it easier. اعلموا أنما الحياة الدنيا. Okay. Know that the life of this world is only a game. Now, before we continue, the issue that I want to raise, why Mars? Mars as the planet. Mars in Arabic we say Al-Marrikh. Why? Why going to Mars? First of all, Islam is not against science. Okay. You cannot say that this is prohibited. Okay. But let's ask the question, why Mars? Even going simply to the International Space Station, people, anyone can go. And I'll explain. The Russians send what we call today astronauts to the International Space Station for about $80 million per person. Literally, there is a ticket for that. I mean, they don't issue them a ticket the way you have for an airplane, but there's a price for that per person. And some countries they send their own. It's good for the image of these countries that they send a youngster or two, in the sense of they call them astronauts because definitely this is like people who could be described as divers, even if they have done it for once only in their lifetime. They just scuba diving or something. There was an American Iranian millionaire who from California, and she paid for her journey. She went up and she came back, and she's not an astronaut, and she did not claim to be an astronaut, but she paid for her journey. And today there are commercial, let's call them flights, call them whatever. So it's not anymore, governmental institutions or organizations. In the United States, it's we talk about commercial companies, and they have been successful. We just go. It's not long. You have that feeling of being no gravitational forces anymore. They are there, but you are floating in a sense. Why Mars? It's very expensive. Again, it's not against science, but that money that they use for these to colonize Mars. First of all, they cannot live outside freely. They will be always in a suit to protect them. There is no atmosphere to protect them from the sun rays. They'll have to live in a bubble for the rest of their lives if they stay there. And if it's really to save humanity, imagine if you could send 8 persons in a capsule to Mars. Like the ratio will be 1 person per billion, 1,000 million. What good is it? Let's fix this Earth as long as life on Earth is possible. For ultimately, there will be a day of judgment. What is it that you are running away from? Life is on Earth. at least for the overwhelming majority, there might be 10 billion of us on Earth, and by the year 2050, Allahu Alam, demographers predict that number, and it's going to stabilize. So, what good is it to send a couple of people to Mars? I hope they'll be successful, but it's not going to change anything for us. Now, back to know that the life of this world is only a game, an entertainment, an adornment, boasting amongst yourselves. It's just like you would like to have what the Jones have down the street, at the corner next door, across the fence. This includes all of the internal destructive characteristics, whether pride, rancor, envy, seeking reputation, ostentation, hypocrisy, boasting, competition, love of the world, or love of praise. These comprise the internal world, and the external world is of actual things. As for your effort to rectify it, this is the totality of industry and vocations that the creation is preoccupied with. In so being, they have forgotten themselves, their beginning and their end, due to the complete immersion of their preoccupation with it. What has preoccupied them is their sentimental attachment, for indeed, the heart's attachment is to the love of this world for fortune, and the body's attachment is to working for its rectification. This is the reality of the world, whose love is the head of every sin. It was only created as a source of provision on the journey to the afterlife. However, even this provision, we tamper with this provision. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created the provision. Winston Churchill diverted the ships that were loaded with grains. They were heading to the Bay of Bengal to feed the people, and by diverting these ships to serve the British army, though there was no immediate need of that, millions of people died. I wonder whether this is really, along with the this recent no food or water for the people of Gaza, whether or not this has been the case for a long time, a Eurocentric position, colonial settler position. Because when Winston Churchill was asked about this, when it was pointed to him that people were dying, he asked why Gandhi did not die. So this world does have the provision, but people tamper the policies, and the people of the South, the countries, the states, have been trapped in loans that they will never be able to pay. Never. Yes. This is the reality of the world, whose love is the head of every sin. It was only created as a source of provision on the journey to the afterlife. However, the abundance of its distractions and varieties of its desirable things has made fools forget about their journey and their objective. Hence, they fall short in their aspirations on account of it. They are like a pilgrim in the open desert who becomes preoccupied with preparing and feeding his camel, only to be left behind by his party until he misses the Hajj and is devoured by the predators of the desert. And like we should be reminded that the wolf eats the astray sheep, if you will. The world as a field for cultivating the afterlife for the one who knows it. في كون الدنيا مزرعة الآخرة. This blameworthy destructive world is in its essence a field for cultivating the afterlife for the one who knows it. He knows that it is one of the rest stops of those traveling to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and and a hospice built in the middle of the road in which food supplies and traveling accoutrements are prepared. Hospice, no, a ribat is not a hospice. Okay, a ribat is not a hospice. Like you might say, a station on the road. The word hospice absolutely is not the correct word for ribat. الرباطات, I mean, depends where in the. They used to be on the edge of the Islamic state, but really it could be inside cities. It could be where they would serve the travelers, almost like pretty close to the notion of an inn, but it's not. I mean, in terms of services, exactly identical at the time. And the word Khan, like if you talk about the old Khans in the old city of Jerusalem, that was the function. There would be a place to stay, food. There will be also a place for the animals. And in the old days, they would know how long the animals could cover, and then they will have a station. This is why, for example, Nabi Musa on the road between Jericho and Jerusalem was in the old days. It was established there. There was a khan. There were many rooms for travelers. There were places for the plenty of places for the animals. It's not an oasis really, but it's a resting place, because you could divide the this space really. You could cover comfortably. If you have a caravan, it's different from being on a horse on your own. At any rate, we have between Jerusalem and Jericho, it's about 40 kilometers. So you would divide the distance in the old days. My maternal grandfather used to take in the very old days Russian Christian pilgrims. They used to call them the Moskob, which makes sense from the word Moscow, Moskva, all the way from Jerusalem to Jordan, across the Jordan River, on animals and not on cars. So the ribat is not a hospice. Whoever equips there for his afterlife and limits himself to the necessary amount that we have mentioned in regards to food, clothing, sexual relations, and remaining necessities. Again, uh, in fact, it's again, it's rather than using the word sexual relations, really, marriage. And remaining necessities has spent and cultivated well. In the afterlife, he will harvest what he planted. Everyone will harvest, whether good or bad. Or if you don't, I mean, some people might not do harm, but or the being minimalistic in terms of worship, the bare minimum. Whoever goes beyond this and is preoccupied with the world's pleasures is destroyed. The likeness of the creation in regards to this world is like the likeness of a people riding a ship that stops at an island. The captain orders them to get off in order to relieve themselves, yet alerts them to the danger of the area and that the ship will set sail quickly. So the people split up on the island. Some of them relieve themselves immediately, return to the ship, and find a vast empty place to sit. Uh, in fact, let's use the word sailor, mallah, rather than captain. It's the same. The function is the same, but sailor is more accurate. So the first group, they just go and then come back immediately. Some of them stop to look at the island's flowers, streams, elegant stones, and wondrous plant life, and to listen to birds singing. They return to the boat, yet they do not find any place to sit except a tight corner. Seashells and rocks, whose beauty astonishes them, enthralled some of them, themselves will not allow them to leave, except after taking souvenirs. They find only a tight space on the ship. The shells and rocks they took increase their weight and discomfort, and they are not able to dispose of them since they cannot find a spot. They hold the rocks and shells to their necks and are weighed down by the load. There's like a slight, like a missing sentence that would make a good link between the number two and number three. Um, yes, it's accurate. Seashells and rocks, and whose beauty astonishes them, enthrall some of them. Uh, it's pretty accurate, but that's really where it begins. The third group who who really suffer from the weight of these souvenirs, unnecessary souvenirs. And we know very well that the what you gather around you will weigh down on you. And what I mean by this, look at the our culture is not a culture of minimalists, really. And now I'm not talking about the worshippers that I mentioned earlier, those who would pray the five daily prayers and no sunnah. They would fast Ramadan and no sunnah, no extra. They will give the zakat, but no extra, no sadaqat, no extra sadaqat. By minimalists today, I'm talking about people who do not fill their homes with furniture. I say our culture because this is really uh, what do engaged people do when they prepare their new home? Yeah, mabruk. But the idea is they try to fill every corner with something. Uh, and sometimes, if you have one living room, that's basically one living room to clean. If you have two, then you have two to clean. Same thing for everything, really. In terms of furniture, in terms of the stuff, as we call it, the material will not bring you happiness. Maybe comfort, maybe, but happiness has nothing to do with that. Some engage in exploring the thickets of plant life. That's number 4. The group number 4. They forget about the ship and are preoccupied with looking at flowers and picking fruit. However, it is a visual enjoyment not devoid of fear from predatory animals or caution from plunging over a cliff and other disasters. When they return to the ship, they do not find it and are left on the shore. Then they are mauled by a predatory animal and torn apart by vermin. This is the picture of the world in relation to its place next to the afterlife. Think deeply about this and extract the parallel aspects within it. If you are an insightful person, فهذه صورة أهل الدنيا بالإضافة للدنيا والآخرة فتأملها واستخرج وجه الموازنة فيها إن كنت ذا بصيرة. If you are an insightful person. And inshallah we'll continue the rest of this still a lengthy but that's some 4 pages that we inshallah will read them tomorrow. سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك والسلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.